happening, everybody? This is the Pensive Brothers podcast. This is Aaron.
And this is Elliot.
We hope everybody out there is having a fantastical day.
Fantastical.
Man, right now there's a lot going on in the world. We got a presidential election going on.
Yeah.
We've got multiple wars, one in Ukraine. We got a new war going on in Israel.
Yeah.
We've
Palestine,
got...
or Hamas, really.
Yeah. We got two presidential candidates who are arguably having severe mental decline. We have a United States senator that passed away.
Yeah.
Senator Dianne Feinstein from California.
Rest in peace.
The Speaker of the House has been ousted.
Yeah. Arguably for good reasons.
Yeah.
If the reports to be
there is
believed.
a shadow campaign of people in the Republican donor base that are trying to get the governor of Virginia to run for president.
Yes, I've heard about that.
Yeah. So
trying to get, and why? He's not that popular.
Well, to be honest, it's because Republicans recognize that they lose a lot of elections.
Yeah.
They lose all presidential election popular votes, and they're looking for Republicans who have name recognition that have a track record of winning.
Here's the weird thing. Of the Republicans that exist, he wouldn't be the worst one, but he wouldn't be a good one. He's not the worst. He's
Would any
better.
of them be a good one? By our
really.
standards? Because most of the Democrats wouldn't be a good one.
Here's the problem, right? So, be a good one holistically? Probably not. They probably do things on balance that I would be like, no, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But, they might... There are some people that I can genuinely say, as much as I dislike the majority of his politics, there are some specific things that I think Matt Gaetz would do as president that would be better for all other Democratic or, more liberal-leaning presidents to come behind him than, your standard boilerplate Republican. So, there are some things that I would like to see, some of these more... radical, maybe. I don't feel like that's the right word.
Faux populist.
Yeah, some of these
populist
faux populist
right.
people, there are some specific things that they would put in place. Now, this is not, hey, let's go vote for these people. This is more like if they win, there is some silver lining somewhere.
And those two things that those guys would do would be okay, and then the other billion things would be horrible.
The other,
for example, Matt Gaetz would probably do something about money in politics.
He would.
He would do something about term limits in Congress.
He would.
And then
he'd probably find a way to get rid of Medicare.
He might even go in as far as doing something about student loans. Maybe. But outside of that, yeah, he's going to start a war. He's going to do tax cuts for the rich. He's going to throw people off of their home and food assistance programs.
He's trying to abolish.
He would get rid of people's health care. He would cut Social Security and Medicaid.
100%. He'd do all that.
Yeah,
and it'd be terrible. So let's not be on the let's vote for Republicans train because they ain't earned that.
Yeah, but arguably a lot of Democrats in there
have not earned it.
But for me, as I told you before, climate change alone, the Republican Party's already out.
And you're not wrong about that because it's not even just they're the science is not conclusive about what we need to do. Some of them, that's what they say, but that's not what they mean.
Really, they mean the opposite of climate change legislation. They say we need more coal.
Correct.
We need more pollution immediately.
No, because and the problem is, I really sympathize with people who are listen, okay, I believe climate change is real and it's being exacerbated by human involvement, human behavior, but it's not world ending. I disagree with those people, by the way, but I understand where they're coming to that position. They don't see it as an
existential.
Correct.
As some of the scientists are warning us.
Some scientists are warning us that it's existential and it will eliminate human life. Their point is...
And it's happening faster than their original models told them.
Even told us that it was going to happen. Right. Their point is, humans are adaptable. Yes, it's going to be bad. It's going to cause a lot of property and destruction. It's going to cause us to have to adjust.
Yeah, we're going to adjust to everything. We're going to adjust to... My point is, a lot less of us living.
If we know it's happening and we can do something about it, why wouldn't we just do something about it?
Have you considered the profits of the corporations?
You know what? You're right.
Exactly.
I forgot all about those ExxonMobil dividends. I'm not getting.
And all of the coal companies that are gonna lose all this money.
Oh, somebody weep for the poor.
The amount of people who are no longer gonna have black lung.
Oh,
so that those health insurance companies aren't gonna make money off of them dying.
Theoretically,
Have you considered any of these dire ramifications to the U.S. economy? Un-American.
Of course not.
No,
Listen,
but anyway,
I'm a dyed-in-the-wool socialist.
So today we are. Don't be saying that.
No, I can't. I can't say I'm a socialist.
Well, if you're a socialist,
Bernie Sanders did it.
Democratic socialist, but yeah,
True, fair.
But So today we're going to we're going to focus on a couple of things here.
Yeah.
So right now, as we all know, there's a presidential election going on.
That's right.
Right now, as it stands today, Donald Trump is in the lead for the Republican primary. Joe Biden is in the lead for the Democratic primary. Well, there is no Democratic primary.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is basically
there's no primary.
The party is not allowing a primary. Even though there's people
Sanders
running.
said there will be no primary debates.
There's See, no, they said there will be no primary, even though there's a primary going on.
Right.
Anyway,
they're like nobody's running. Nobody's running. No.
Which takes the wind out of the sails when they call the Republicans fascists when you're being anti-democratic. But anyway,
yeah, but that's divergence.
That's not even a conversation.
That's
not
the point. Because what we're here to talk about is the fact that we have some new candidates who started off. Cornell didn't start off in either party. He actually started off in like the People's Party, and then he went to the Green Party, and now he's running as an independent. Yep, we'll talk about it. And then RFK, who started off in the Democratic Party, is now also running as an independent. So I think both of those things are pretty. They're pretty important because both of these people are fairly popular in their spheres of influence, and I think there is a lot of interesting things going on with that. So I think we should start with probably Cornel West because there's a little bit more meat there. Pause. Anyway, so
you say that because Cornel's black?
Shut up! You're so. What's wrong with you, bro?
All right. Anyway, so let me give some context and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
So Cornel West is a philosopher, a scholar, educator,
activist.
He's he's got his doctorate. He's a very, very, very smart, historic leader in the black community.
Yep.
He was the co-chairman of the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2020. He was a big part of his 2016 campaign, if I remember correctly.
He was.
He's been advocating for a lot of the left-leaning candidates all over the country. So he started out. Was it the People's Party? He was running in the People's, basically for the People's Party's nomination.
Yep.
The People's Party has a lot of issues. Including
their founder, which I think was kind of what came to a head.
Right. And so he decided, after a lot of backlash, I'm going to not do that. He went over to the Green Party.
Yep.
And those who might not know what the Green Party is, the Green Party is a small third party in America that basically they don't have any national candidate. I mean, politicians that were elected, but they do have lower level local wins, mayors, and things like that all over the country.
Yeah.
Like in little pockets like New York and certain places.
Yes, and they have run candidates in like big national elections.
Yes.
Obviously Jill Stein back in 2016, but they run
president.
Yep, they run like Ralph Nader and a couple others. So like they have big candidates, but they usually do not win the big national elections. They really win more of the like local and state level elections.
Right, where it's a lot easier for a third party to break in. Because as we all know, we live in basically a political duopoly where you have the Democratic and the Republican parties that dominate everything.
Right.
So if you're in the Green Party, you are not on the debate stage.
Yep.
You are not basically given matching funds because you're not making enough.
They don't talk to you. They don't talk about you on the news.
You don't get coverage.
Yeah.
There is no. They'll have a convention, but it's not really covered.
It's not covered. The major news networks don't cover it.
Right. So Cornel West decided to leave the Green Party this week. And now he's just running flat out as an independent.
Yeah. And, to add some additional context to that, there were some things that were happening kind of in the background. So Sabby Sabs, big shout out to her, actually did an interview with both Jill Stein of the Green Party. She was a previous presidential candidate for them, and she kind of has been, I don't know her exact role. I believe she's like the head, like the director of the party or something along those lines. But she's a big prominent face. Her and Ajuma, I believe it's Ajuma Baraka. I might be butchering his name. I'm sorry, brother, if I am. But they were really big. They were, kind of the people who brought Cornel West in. She also was involved in getting Cornel West a campaign manager because one of the big things that he had issues with early on was he really did not have campaign infrastructure. He didn't have a campaign manager. He really didn't have any of the email and communications and fundraising apparatus that you really need to actually run like a national level campaign.
A viable national campaign.
Correct.
Because anybody can just jump up and say you're going to do it.
Hey, anybody can say I'm running. But you need signatures. There's process. There's paperwork that has to be filed by a certain amount of time. You have to be familiar with the process in all the states. Like there's a lot to it. And if you're not really in that world, if you're not a subject matter expert, it's really hard to get your arms around all of that, which I don't think anybody faults Cornel for necessarily. No, because genuinely, I think
not that he should know himself.
Correct,
everything,
but
if you're going to run for president, there is some prep work that he should have done.
That is
especially going from the People's Party to the Green Party. Like that wasn't a good look. I think starting out like not researching Because it was like once all that stuff came out about the founder, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go over here."
Well,
the people. I'm not saying this, but I'm saying the detractors, the people that were criticizing, would say he should have done that research on the front end.
I think I struggle with this, okay, and I'll tell you why I struggle with this. It's not like Cornel West was doing nothing and then like he was a retiree, he didn't have anything else going on, and then he decided to run for president. He just had all this free time to kind of research and look things up. It's kind of like he saw the way that the Democratic primaries were going, and then he's like, listen, I can't watch this happen again. They did it to Bernie twice. They're about to do it to the two people. Marianne Williamson is actually a decent candidate, and they're literally not even letting her participate. I can't watch that happen again. It's like she's not even running, bro. It's depressing. So
it is.
I think he saw that like occurring and decided he was going to run for president, and then started looking for, okay, how can I do this? And the first opportunity that presented itself, he hopped on it, and then he kind of, in working through all of he was like, nah, I'm gonna make this work. We gonna go full speed. And as he was going full speed, he realized the problems with the way he was going. He recognized, all right, this is not gonna work. He made a change. Now I was a little concerned, let's say, when I heard that he was also leaving the Green Party to run independent. But
I was too.
I have to give him credit, because I was like, well, let me hear the man out, because there has to be a reason. There has to be like a real explanation for why he would make this decision, because it's a bad look. The way he describes it, and even the way kind of things have played out, I understand. Basically, it kind of goes like, I am trying to run for president of the United States. The only way I can win as an outside of the Democratic and the Republican parties like person is I gotta get out there and campaign in all the places with all the people that nobody listens to. Those are the people whose votes I need. I can't go to traditional lefty places. I can't go and do all of this touring at Green Party exclusive events. I can't go and just talk to your Green Party event planner and this state Green Party person and this state Green Party person, because I got to get out here and try and get votes before November next year. And I can't do that trying to cater to y'all. Y'all don't actually care about things that the majority of people care about. Not that the things you care about aren't important or don't matter, but y'all have different priorities than the general people that I need to be speaking to, because they're the ones whose votes I need. And if I'm bogged down trying to run a Green Party campaign, I'm going to miss out on my opportunity to actually get the votes I need to make a difference when it comes to getting the election in November next year. And when you articulate it that way, and when you kind of hear the frustration that he describes, and listen, I can't go to all these Green Party activities. Like, I'm out here trying to talk to real people. I'm trying to go to be at rallies with people who are picketing. I'm trying to go out here and protest with anti-violence protesters. Like, those are the people I need to be talking to. And if I'm stuck playing party politics the same way y'all have been playing party politics this whole time, I'm never gonna win a national election. And when he said it, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because even when Jill Stein came in and she explained, oh, well, Cornel really didn't talk to me about this decision, and, we have a lot of entrenched parties, and if you're going to win the Green Party, elect nomination, like, the Green Party really has to be a part of that process. Like, you have to go through the Green Party process. And I'm like, oh, she doesn't get it. She doesn't understand. Because Cornel West hopped in the race. Listening to him describe it, he hopped in the race because he sees this as existential. He sees this as, this is the last opportunity to keep World War III from happening. This is the last opportunity to try and keep the United States from blowing everything up and making the whole world go crazy. Like, this is our last chance. I don't have time to mess around with y'all who haven't been able to win a real national election this whole time. If y'all are going to keep doing the same thing you've been doing. Now, I got to do it a different way, and I got to do it the way I see it being, the only way I see it being successful. And looking at how Peter Dow is kind of running things in the background, how he's spinning up a lot of the campaign infrastructure, so far, it looks like that might have been the right call, even if it kind of don't seem like it at first blush.
Yeah, and I don't think that there is a pretty way for him to win or lose anyway.
Yeah.
The only, my only thing is, like I said, I wish he would have made these types of decisions up front. I wish he would have been looking at the landscape up front and made those types of decisions, because it appears as though he can't figure out, to the average person that will hear, he was in the People's Party and then he was in the Green Party, and now he's an independent over the span of what, a month? 2 months?
I think it's like 2 or 3 months, but yeah.
I don't even think it's been 3 months. To the average voter,
that seems
they will see that instability.
It seems like chaos.
Do I think that no one will vote for him? Of course not. I'm not saying anything like that. But like I've heard, I don't know if you've ever seen the Leftist Mafia on. Okay, so like they had a debate about this a couple months ago when he first
moved to the Green Party.
No, it was right before that.
Oh, okay.
It was when you remember when all the explosion about the People's Party was happening.
Yeah.
So they were having a debate about him, and basically half of them were saying, why doesn't he just do the Bernie model and just try the Democratic Party? Because at least you'll be on the debate stage. At least you'll be able to make some noise, blah, blah, blah. And then half of them were saying,
no debate stage.
Well, yeah, yes. Half of them were saying, one, there is no debate stage. Two, the Bernie model didn't work. Bernie lost.
Twice.
Right. And so like that was kind of the discussion that they were having.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, like I said from the beginning, I don't think there's a pretty way to do this. The Bernie model would have been difficult because, one, at least the 2 times Bernie ran, there was a Democratic primary.
Correct.
Even the first time when they tried to basically anoint Hillary Clinton, she still had to debate.
And they were actually interested in at least pretending to be Democratic.
Yeah, because the Democratic Party was literally funneling all the money to Hillary Clinton's campaign,
now,
which is nuts during the primary. But anyway, this is about Hillary.
Well, you're right.
So the point that I'm making is that would be the only criticism that I think is valid. That I wish that he had spent the summer discussing this with people like Jill Stein, discussing this with the people of the People's Party, making a decision, and then running the campaign based on research. Now, I take your point. Yes, it's not like Cornel West is some billionaire retiree that's just sitting around and had all that time. Like, yes, he works. He was on the campaign trail. He's been campaigning for not just Bernie, but like when Nina Turner was running and all these other candidates. Like, I got it. And
he's been doing like in-person events the entire time. So,
but he is going to suffer because he didn't do this prep work. Is what I'm saying.
I agree.
His campaign would have been stronger if he was able to have a single message. Is all I'm saying.
I 100% agree with you. Not only that, I also think there are other entities. Like he's really, he talks to Tim Black, he talks to Savvy, he talks to some other like left-leaning political, black political people in this space. I think he really needs to make an effort to reach out to some more like standard black voices. I really want to see him get up with Roland Martin. I really want to see him.
I wish Roland Martin did. Like, Roland Martin does a good job of bringing in a lot of black voices.
He does.
But there's a lot of voices on the left. Not even just, like, far left, but, like, centrist Democrat over that he doesn't collaborate with as much as I would like to see.
Because he reminds me a lot of Dad. Like, his view on the world, and I think his background makes him a lot more realpolitik. Like, we got to be ruthless and cutthroat out here in a way that I don't think gels with a lot of like black leftist ideology. Like,
and I've seen, like, Dr. Rashad Ritchie.
Yeah, I do.
I like him, but
I'm a fan of him most of the time.
Similar to Roland, he has like a mean streak.
Yes.
Where sometimes I feel like they're never going to talk to you.
Yes.
Like, literally. So that's the thing. But in the service of time, let's move to RFK because we still got to get to the other thing.
Because you do still got to get to him. So, just to button up the Cornel West thing, he's running as an independent now. He's got a campaign manager. They have a really good platform. They're actually covering a lot of things. They're covering a lot of things that I haven't seen a lot of other people cover in ways that are novel and interesting. So if you're interested in, just looking at your options out there, please go check out his party platform. I believe it's CornelWest2024.com or something along those lines. If you Google Cornel West,
Cornel West,
you'll find it. So RFK moving over. So he's been teasing for a little while now that he's got a big announcement on the 9th, yada yada yada. Because he's been very vocal about the problems that he's been having running in the Democratic primary. Now,
the fact that they're not having one.
I want to back up a second, okay? Because something that I don't like. So I am less anti RFK than you are. I have more space because I think there are some specific things that I'm genuinely concerned about, especially when it comes to our regulatory structure around food and drugs. That I don't think you just have gotten into it as much, and I think we need to be a lot more. I think it's bigger than Medicare for all. I think if we actually tackled how poorly our food and our drugs are being regulated, I think that would do more for healthcare in the United States than actually getting Medicare for all. But he got a lot of other problems. For it? Yes,
or absolutely. You think it would just be a big impact?
No, I think
giving people healthcare, nothing would.
Here's the problem with trying to give people healthcare if you don't fix the problems we have with drugs and food.
No, I'm not saying that fixing the problem with drugs and food isn't like
what I'm saying
giant
is
part of the problem.
Way more people would need way less healthcare in general. If
Arguably, that's true.
If we fix the problem with drugs and food, so like, will people still need healthcare, especially young people and old people? Absolutely. Like,
But the problem with healthcare isn't that people need too much of it. That's my point.
No,
my point with healthcare is specifically our healthcare is too expensive and it has become commodified.
I agree with you.
So now people are rationing care. People are going to other countries to get insulin.
There's also no market pressures on a lot of our healthcare because there are so many people who need the services that they can afford not to provide them in ways that are actually like appropriate. So like, they can afford to keep Tylenol at $100 a pill.
We're getting off topic.
We're on a whole tangent. Anyway,
we'll talk about healthcare a different day.
Right.
RFK.
The point I was making was RFK has some specific positions that I think are really important and that I have not heard anyone else really tackle the way he's tackling. So I say all that to say, he has been teasing for a little while that he has not been getting a fair shake in the Democratic primary because they're not having a primary. And he couldn't possibly have seen this coming. Now, my issue is, if he had literally talked to anyone on the internet in the last 8 years, we all could have told him this was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Lots of people tried to tell him. Breonna Joy Gray tried to tell him. Jimmy Dore tried to tell him. A whole lot of people tried to tell this man, hey, listen, Democrats not going to let you run. You think it's sweet because you had Kennedy and you know these people, yada, yada. It's not going to work like you think it will. Come to find out, it didn't work like he thought it was, and he's surprised. To me, that's bad.
So he is now going to run as an independent.
So,
as my long-winded brother here is trying to tell you guys, RFK.
I'm long-winded.
RFK is running in the Democratic primary right now, and not anymore.
Right,
and he was running against Marianne Williamson and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Basically, the Democratic Party is saying they're not allowing a primary at all.
Nobody's
because of that, RFK, along with Cornel West, who's decided to run as an independent, RFK is running as an independent now. So what makes this interesting is, who do these two siphon votes from? Okay, now arguably RFK is going to have a larger portion of the electorate of voters than Cornel will, in my opinion, based on what I've seen.
I agree with
that. Technically, RFK was polling closer to 20% in the Democratic primary.
Correct.
But a lot of his voters are not Democratic. There's a lot of Republican voters that were going to vote for him. So, from what I've seen, people are saying RFK as an independent is going to siphon more votes from Trump than Biden. But now they're saying Cornel would obviously siphon more votes from a stereotypical Biden, but really more non-Trump voting people are going to be more likely to gravitate towards Cornel. So I'm thinking Cornel will probably get between 3 and 4% of the vote. RFK might get 8 to 10 if he's lucky. Marianne will probably get 2.
I'm going to be honest.
Well, no, she's not going to be in the general.
Yeah, she's not going to be in the general.
So Marianne in the primary will probably get maybe 10% of the vote.
Maybe. And then Biden's going to clinch it.
Maybe, but you got to think, if RFK's not running the primary, and there are states where you can't vote for an independent.
Correct. But
those people might not vote for Biden because they're looking for someone else.
Well,
vote for
when
Marianne.
You say can't vote for an independent, wait.
I'm saying you have to register as an independent.
Correct.
In certain states like New York.
Correct.
If you're registered as a Democrat and we're planning on voting for RFK, and now he's no longer a Democrat, you can't vote for him unless
in the primary.
Unless you change your voter registration now, like before the election starts.
Wait.
And a lot of times people don't be knowing that.
I'm confused. Wait, I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying in New York, if RFK was running as a Democrat,
and you're registered as a Democrat.
Are we talking about the general?
No, I'm talking about the primary because this happened to Bernie.
Yeah.
So, in a lot of those states that had those goofy rules.
Yeah, you got to be registered before the vote, and then if you're not, you can't vote in the primary.
And I know this because there was a lot of independents and Republicans who tried to vote for Bernie in a lot of states.
Correct.
But because you're not registered specifically as a Democrat,
you can't vote.
Even though Bernie was an independent in the Senate, he was running as a Democrat in the primary. So they might have that problem. So I would argue those campaigns need to be getting started on that.
Well,
sending out stuff saying, hey, vote for me, register yourself as an independent if you want.
Wait, I'm confused again. Okay, because I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, in Virginia, we have like some of the best voting laws in the country. Yeah. So here, you can vote for whoever you want.
Correct.
But in other states, they don't allow that. The parties basically pass laws saying that you have to register, and there's this
not in the general though.
No, in the primary.
Okay. The reason I keep getting confused is because you keep talking about the primary, but we're talking about independent candidates.
That is a perfect point. But in the general, I think that wouldn't make sense.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay, you just worked through that for me. Okay, all right. So we good.
I was so confused.
No, you're right. But I'm thinking about the primary.
You are.
I guess, technically speaking, when you think about it, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
In the primary,
listen,
nothing happens to independent.
as far
as if you're running as an independent and you get 2% of the vote, who cares? Because you're going again in the general. And you're just as equally in there as Trump and Biden.
Here's the other thing. The way that the Democratic Party has changed their rules, if you're independent, you can't be in there. You wouldn't even be allowed to be voted for. Like, the votes won't count anyway. So it's not like you can
there is another concern. So
which is what?
Like, ballot access. So
yes, which I want to talk about.
Yeah, so that was a big part of the problem with the People's Party.
Correct.
Because the Green Party, I think, has ballot access in 48 states. Like, they're almost there.
So the ballot access issue is actually very, very tricky.
Yeah,
so
it is.
I want to take a second to go over this with the best of understanding, keeping in mind that I don't have all the information at hand and I might get some of these details wrong. So the Green Party had ballot access for this election, I think in like 13 states, I think is what they said.
Okay.
With the ability to get ballot access in another
13.
I think they have it right now.
What I saw was 48 states.
Yeah. So what they're saying is they have had ballot access in 48 states before, and they have the ability, because of the state parties that they already have in place, to potentially get ballot access in 48 states.
Oh, lucky for them, they don't have a major candidate anymore.
Well, that was kind of the whole issue that Cornell was raising, which is, listen, you're telling me that you have ballot access, but realistically, you don't have the ballot access yet, and I still got to win your primary, and then you're gonna see if you can get me ballot access. Like,
at that type of agreement, you may as well just run as an independent.
And that was again because the point he was making when he was talking to Sabby is, listen, Green Party does have some like built-in ballot access already, but they don't have all of it, and the rules around a third party versus the rules for an independent run are not the same. So as an independent, he can actually out the gate get more ballot access with less signatures. He's still got to get those signatures. Yeah, he's still got to raise money to get them, but he has the ability to get more ballot access as an independent with less signatures and potentially less money out the gate. I don't know if that's really going to pan out that way. Ultimately, the proof is going to be in the pudding. It probably won't.
Unfortunately.
But the proof is in the pudding. And I think it's really important that we recognize the moment that we're in. Like, I don't want to overpromise like I did with Jill Stein, because I really thought Jill Stein was going to get 10% of the vote, and I was wrong. Okay, I was wrong. But
if only somebody told you that. At the time,
you were right. Okay, listen. You want your flowers. You want accolades. Okay.
No, I don't want any flowers.
Because to be honest with you, I don't think she's going to that much.
I was right about too much in that election because I said that Donald Trump was going to win.
Yeah.
And I remember
we both said
I went back and forth with a lot of people about that. Yeah. A lot of people, because
that was crazy.
If you remember though, like, this is Obama time. Yeah. This is like Obama and Mitt Romney type of, like, those type of politicians. Like, no, Trump.
And I was like,
we would never actually vote for that guy, right? We would never actually elect him. I was like,
the problem is a whole lot of people were not paying attention, because what would happen is everybody would say, "Oh man, I would never vote for Trump." But I mean,
yeah, you wouldn't. No, but there's a whole lot of people that would.
No, because the same people who would say, "I would never vote for Trump," they would, in the next sentence, in the next breath, say, "But I mean, he ain't worse than the rest of these politicians."
Or they would say, "But Hillary." I don't want her to win.
Right.
Like, you know what
so now it comes
to a lot of people that said they would never vote for Trump. Pulled that curtain and voted for Trump.
And at the end of the day, this is people talk about white moderates and all that sort of stuff. And I don't even necessarily think it's racial for real. I think at the end of the day, people are never going to be completely honest if they feel like they can't be completely honest without suffering a bunch of repercussions for it. So it's a whole lot of people who voted for Donald Trump who will never cop to it, because they were like, listen, I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. I think she eats babies. Now,
there was a bunch of crazy stuff. Like,
there's remember the Pizzagate? I mean,
it was nuts. Here's the problem. It wasn't 2016, 2015 a crazy time to be alive.
It was a crazy time to be alive.
It's crazy.
We were talking, was it Comey 2020? Was that a thing? Am I
Comey? From the FBI?
No, not James Comey. Maybe it's Coney. I don't remember. It was Koney. There was some African warlord that was like a flash in the pan. It was like a big thing. Somebody in the comments, please tell me what I'm talking about, because I know this was a thing. I'm gonna Google it later. And
because I don't know what you're talking about.
But there was an African guy who was like using child soldiers, and it was like a thing for literally like a summer, and then everybody stopped caring about it.
You talking about that movie on Netflix?
maybe that's what it was. Maybe no, you're thinking of
the movie with Idris Elba.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, actually,
that came out after, and I think it's related to that. But no.
Now you tell me, are we gonna push the Israel thing to the next time?
No,
because I got a good story about that.
About
child soldiers in Africa.
No, we're definitely.
I have a really good story about that.
I mean, you want to talk about it?
Kind of, but only if we're gonna push.
Okay, let's cut at the RFK thing. So ultimately, okay, I am not super enthused about this RFK run for multiple reasons. We're gonna get into his comments on Israel here shortly. But ultimately, like, I don't like the fact that he has to keep finding out for himself all of these things that everybody keeps trying to explain to him. Like, right. He should have the ability to look at the landscape. He keeps talking about how podcast is the new wave. He keeps talking about how he really has to get out there and talk to regular people. Regular people have already spoken. They're doing it right now. We're regular people. We're talking on mics right now. Yeah. You need to pay attention to what normal people are saying. If and people are telling you, hey, the Democratic Party is not interested in actually having a democratic process, you need to take that critique seriously. And until some of these people who have been insulated from all of this stuff that we're talking about really pay attention to what people are saying and investigate it, we're going to keep seeing the same thing. So yeah. I don't, if RFK doesn't, smarten up and shape up and fly right soon, his campaign is only going to go as far as he allows it to go, running into the same problems. So
see, I'm a lot more, I guess, skeptical and pessimistic when it comes to this types of stuff. Like, Bernie was the only person I think that actually made some noise that was bringing something other than standard corporatism. Like, Elizabeth Warren wasn't bringing standard corporatism, but she wasn't winning anything.
Correct.
So it's like, for me, everyone except for Joe Biden and Donald Trump are circling the toilet bowl right now. Yeah, and I don't like to say it like that, but like, I'm just saying that if we're keeping it real, RFK's gonna lose. He's gonna lose. Cornel West is gonna lose.
Here's the problem.
And so to the average, now hopefully, yeah, obviously there's other scenarios like somebody passing away or somebody going to prison or whatever.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know, bro.
But the only reason I'm saying this is, not us, but to the average voter, they kind of vote with, like one of these, like if they feel like somebody's gonna win,
they're going in.
Yeah, literally. And so it was the same thing that happened with the whole talk of who's more electable. It's like if they think this person's gonna win, then it's going to be a snowball effect of that person winning. Like you said, if they don't smarten up
in traditional
and change
times,
stuff around,
yeah.
I know where you're going with that. You're right, but I don't think that part has changed enough yet. I think maybe 2 or 3 more election cycles, it is beginning to change. That's how we got a Trump in the first place. People are pulling away from just the standard Hillary Clinton, Obama, Biden, like standard corporate-backed candidate wins every. Like, people are pulling away, but I just don't think we are at that crossroad yet where the standard bearer corporate-backed candidate is actually gonna lose. I just don't. At least the Democratic Party isn't there.
I think in the past, I would agree with you. I think the problem that you have is in Donald Trump, you have somebody who, like, Republicans will vote for him. There's not a single person who is not a Republican voter or a Trump stan who is gonna vote for him. So
yeah, he's got a finite amount of votes.
Right. He has a very dedicated circle of people who are gonna vote for him. And that's it.
But he's struggling to expand that circle.
Biden, sure, but I just don't think it can happen. So
you don't think what can happen?
I don't think Trump can convince people that he's not who he is. Like,
you mean non-MAGA?
Correct.
Like pulling other people back in.
Because that's what happened last time. Last time he had the.
I don't know, man.
No, I'm telling you, okay. Time
I hear you though.
He had the cover. He had the cover of. I don't really know what he'll do.
Everybody 2016,
correct. 2020. Everybody has had their opportunity to see him govern. So if literally anybody more serious shows up, I don't see him getting a large chunk of the vote. Like, is he gonna get his MAGA people? Absolutely. Is he gonna get diehard Republicans who are gonna just hold their nose and vote for him? Sure, maybe. But like independents, Democrats, they're not gonna. It's not gonna be like last time when you had this huge crossover.
See, we're never gonna finish this conversation because that's a good point. But at the same time, Biden has that same issue. It's like Biden is dealing with the people that have seen him govern, and the people that are very unhappy.
Majority of people.
Well,
yes, the majority of people are very unhappy with what's going on, either with Congress or with the border or with our war position and all the money we're spending on Ukraine,
or the government shutdown,
him not showing up in East Palestine, the stuff that's going on in Hawaii,
cutting these student loans, sending us back to pay for them.
Okay, so
wages haven't increased.
That's what I'm saying. The majority of people are not happy, and this is the first time in my living memory where we have two people who are not just like bad, but they are entirely unqualified for the position. It's not like
I disagree with that whole
no.
Who?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who in all of the presidential elections in our lifetime has been entirely unqualified for the job?
I don't think that Joe Biden's unqualified. I think he's old.
No.
You're saying that he's unqualified, but I disagree with that. He
can't speak for an hour. He cannot stand up in front of a mic and speak contemporaneously without somebody holding his hand for 1 hour. He cannot do it. He is illustrated over and over and over again. If
I don't see that as making him unqualified. I'm sorry,
but that's just because I don't know what that.
I don't like Biden that much. I think Biden has been probably the best Democratic president of my lifetime.
It's not.
But what I'm saying is I'm disagreeing with you.
What job can you have where you cannot speak for 1 hour? Where you can't be held accountable for like conducting yourself for an entire hour? How are we supposed to send this man to argue on our behalf to keep World War III from happening when he can't speak for an hour?
You don't.
And that's my point.
You send someone else.
Okay, and who decides who else to send?
He does. The White House.
He can't speak for an hour.
I'm not, Elliot. I think you think that I'm disagreeing with you.
No, and what I'm trying.
I don't think that. Okay, let me make sure I'm being clear.
To be president.
No. You saying that he's wholly unqualified to be. I don't agree with that because he hasn't been able to speak for an hour for the past 2.5 years, and he's been president for the last 2.5 years.
Okay,
but what I'm saying is, I think Joe Biden should drop out. I don't think that Joe Biden should run. I'm afraid that Joe Biden's going to lose.
Here's the problem.
But at the same time, I don't think he's gonna drop out.
Okay,
and I guess I'm more pessimist and more practical. So I'm just like, well, if this is the cards we're dealt, hopefully in 2028 we'll get a better candidate. And I don't want to be like that, Elliot. You know how I was. You know how I am.
All right,
what I'm saying is, do you think he's gonna drop out?
Let me connect some dots for you, okay? On why I do not think you can look at historical data and make predictions about this election, and I'll tell you why.
We're not going to talk about Israel today.
We might get to it. It might be a short conversation. You're right, but I think this is really important.
This is super important. That's why I want to finish this. We went
in depth on this before, but I really think we gotta hash this out.
We gotta flush this out.
There are some specific things that are different now that are just unprecedented. The majority of people, over 60%, now do not get their news from TV. They get their news from Facebook or from YouTube or from other social media sources, which is a huge deal because the vast majority of internet news just doesn't look anything like TV news, and all of the top-down control that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party exercise through Fox News and through CNN and MSNBC, they can't do now. They're trying to make Google put the screws to all the smaller people, but it's just not going to work. So that's a huge deal. Then you also have the fact that whether you agree with me or not, the vast majority of people feel like Biden is unqualified, and the vast majority of people feel like Trump is unqualified. We do not, and everybody recognizes that the two parties are not giving us a better option.
When you say unqualified, are they saying that you're talking about the polls that say that he's too old to run? Or are you saying that they don't think that he knows how to be president?
I'm talking about the polls that say I would vote for literally anyone else other than Trump or Biden if I had a real option. There is poll after poll after poll.
I would agree with that.
But
then on the other side of that question is, if you don't have another option, which is the world that it looks like we're going to find ourselves
in. Hold on, because in this particular race, we have a left and a right independent candidate who are running.
We just discussed the fact that the average voter, there is a snowballing effect. So if they think you're going to win, they're going to vote. They are not.
But now I want to back up because I agree with that point. But where is the average voter getting the impression of who's going to win from?
From standard media.
The average voter is
You're telling me they're not watching it. Okay, we're going to see who's going to be right.
Listen, and at the end of the day, if we're back here at the end of 2024 and I'm like, dang.
So what do you think is going to happen?
So this is genuinely what I think is going to happen. I think Biden is probably going to pass away in the next 6 months. Because I think he has late-stage dementia. Yes, seriously. And I think they have been medicating him to just like limp him over the finish line. But I think they're doing the same thing they did with Dianne Feinstein.
Well, to
Dianne
be honest
Feinstein
with you,
has been slowly dying in front of our eyes for years.
That is true. Very true.
So,
but the only difference is here now, Trump also is having some serious cognitive
I
issues.
agree.
And he said, like, Trump did a speech like a week ago where
he couldn't talk.
He said that he was said he's running against Obama. And have you seen Obama's polls and all this other nonsense? Trump is also like, it's just that
we're not having the same argument. I don't think Trump's going to be around because I think either he's actually going to finish one of these court cases and they're going to tell him you have mandatory prison time, and he's going to be trying to run a campaign from a prison cell.
You think they'll put him in jail?
What?
I think some of these might, but I think all 4 of the cases are open and shut. That's what I think. All 4 of them. But I don't know if they're going to put him in jail, bro. I'm sorry.
Minimum, that documents case,
he should be in jail for that. If
he gave away national nuclear secrets to
and battle plans to invade Iran. Like, he's insane.
Bro, they are going to put him in prison. They're going to do everything. So? What? Yes. They're going to try and put him in prison because you can't not. Because
he should go to prison, but I believe when I see it.
How can you justify how we treat Julian Assange and Chelsea Manning and all of these other people if this guy can do
by saying that they're not elites?
Worse?
That's how. That's what they've been doing for decades.
But that they can only do that. They can only imply.
Yeah, they do that on the edges.
No, right. They can't. They can't
just. This would be overt. Like, correct. No, literally, Trump did like way worse, but we're gonna do nothing.
I
don't think. Now, you know, in New York, they've given Trump the what they're calling the business death penalty. Correct. Basically saying Donald Trump is no longer allowed to do business any business in the state of New York.
Yeah.
Now, they are also if you remember his lawyer that went to prison.
Yeah.
Cohen? No.
Yeah, Michael Cohen.
Michael Cohen?
Yep.
You sure?
Mm-hmm. That's
okay. So Michael Cohen went to prison because they were basically doing money laundering,
and he perjured himself.
Yeah, he perjured himself, and so basically what they did is they say Mar-a-Lago is worth $700 million. I'm sorry, so that they could secure loans and cheaper insurance.
Oh, that's not why he went to prison.
No, I'm saying no. He lied.
Yeah,
he lied about these things
correct.
On official documents. So they would say it was worth $750 million,
and it was worth like
cheap
75.
loans. And then when they were filing their taxes within the same year, they would say that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, so that they would get a low tax bill.
Correct.
So in that case specifically, Trump is actually, it's so sad. Like, he's already been found guilty, so now they're in the sentencing phase.
Correct.
So the DA of New York, Fannie Willis, is trying to get him to pay $250 million.
Correct.
So I don't think he has $250 million. As you guys might not know, he had to pay $25 million after his case for Trump University. $25 million.
And he ain't had that either. Just
the fact that Joe Biden isn't dropping an ad about that every day is wild. But anyway.
He can't talk for an hour. How you
No, he doesn't drop ads. He has a team to do that.
Because, okay, you're saying
you don't think that his team should be doing that?
The only way his team can drop ads is he has to speak.
No, he does not. Half of his ads, he doesn't say anything.
Well,
did you see the ad that the ads he's been doing lately? I'm showing to you later. He's been basically
his people have to want him to run.
No. I'm serious. They have a pre-recording of him saying, "I'm Joe Biden. I approve this message." They just throw that at the end. No, like they've been using the words of the Republicans as ads. So Marjorie Taylor Greene gave a speech where she was criticizing him for
I have seen
like
that ad,
fighting
actually.
for unions and fighting for healthcare.
And then they just tack his voice.
Yeah,
this is Joe Biden. I approve this.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Ron DeSantis, where Ron DeSantis is talking about him like helping workers get more. And Nikki Haley is like, you see what happens when you support unions? Workers get higher pay and they start demanding better working conditions. It's like,
bro,
it's
like, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy that Republicans regularly say things and like their cadence and their tone is like, oh, this is the worst thing ever, but everything they're saying is positive. And everybody on the internet is like, yeah, that's what we want them to do.
It's like when AOC won that primary and Sean Hannity had this long list on Fox News saying, these are the things that AOC is going to try to bring if she wins the general election in November. And it was like universal health care, helping people cross the street when they're elderly, like making sure that there's no hungry people on the side of the road. Like, it was a bunch of
world peace.
Yeah.
World peace,
ending the wars, cutting all of our excess in the military budget. Can you believe it? She wants people to have health care, housing, and education. What kind of monster?
Nah, I mean, and to be fair, okay, the Democrats do the same thing when they get on TV and say goofy stuff like, oh, well, when we had Nancy Pelosi and we had a slim margin and we would never allow this kind of division in our party. And everybody's like, yeah, we know.
Because you guys were getting together to do nonsense.
Yeah, no, because the problem is, like, when Force the Vote happened, and big ups to Breonna Joy Gray. I'm not, like, Jimmy Dore really was pushing it, but he was such a clown about it that he made it impossible
he ruined it.
Happen reasonably.
Yeah, and
so
nobody's
no
gonna
flowers
support
for Jimmy
you.
Dore. Get out of here with your nonsense, because there is such a thing as tact, and Jimmy has never heard of that word.
Did he tell people to vote for Trump yet?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
I know he said that if you're anti-war, you should vote for Trump.
All right.
But he's supposed to be on
that
the left,
seems
right?
like a crazy take to me. But again, no flowers for Jimmy. But big ups to Breonna Joy Gray, because she really was doing the circus back in the day, trying to explain why this was our moment.
She's still trying to explain it.
Well,
and people are not.
And people are not hearing it. And I don't get it. Because how can you see what the Republicans, what Matt Gaetz, what the, what do you call them, the Freedom Caucus have been able to accomplish with like 10 or 15 people? And
no, they're proof that Force the Vote could have done something, but at the same time, I think
would have worked.
It would have gotten the vote. Yes,
they would have,
and it would have made all of those people vote against Medicare.
Correct.
That's
and
true.
Here's the problem, right? The whole reason the Democrats can continue to be as lukewarm and mediocre as they are is because nobody holds their feet to the fire,
and they never have to vote on anything.
And they always have plausible deniability about how hard they're working to make things better. And to be fair to some people, okay, I don't want to be I don't want to be rude. Some of them really are working hard trying to make this stuff happen. But at the end of the day, if you keep passing up the real opportunities to exercise the power that you have, I gotta ask, why are you there? Like, you're holding up space for somebody who would be willing to use the power you're not willing to use. And that's really how I feel about it. Like, at the end of the day, if you're not willing to get out there and make noise and make a ruckus when you have the opportunity to affect change, bro, why are you there? You're holding the seat. Give it to somebody who's gonna use it.
Yeah, step aside.
Use the pot or get up.
So,
but listen, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be interesting. We're going to have to keep watching this thing, because I really do think it's going to be seriously... I think it's seriously unlikely that we get to 2024 this time next year and Trump and Biden are even real conversation pieces. I think all of these random independents, and then whoever replaces Trump and Biden when inevitably they both...
Gavin Newsom.
It's probably going to be Gavin Newsom. And I think it might come back around to DeSantis. I think he's going to do like a Biden where...
Yeah, he'll have his day in the sun. I think DeSantis and I think Vivek is done. I think Vivek is done.
I agree.
I think Christie is basically done.
I agree.
Tim Scott is done.
It's definitely done. He got to dodge them homosexual rumors.
Doug Burgum, he's done.
Yeah.
So
and
Nikki
Asa,
Haley
whatever
is
his
not
name.
done.
Who?
Nikki Haley is not done.
No, but
I mean, she's done in the grand scheme of things, but she's not. She's actually doing okay.
Wait a minute, she might be done after this Israel stuff, which we're gonna get into.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that one day.
So one day. No, we're gonna get into it right now. We got time.
Do we? We're passing over.
Let's just hit the news highlights.
Okay,
we'll talk.
So I'll do that. Yeah. So that
hit it.
So basically, as you guys know, well, you should know, there is a rather large war going on right now in Israel.
Yeah.
So Gaza is a very small area. It's about twice the size of Washington, D.C., where the Palestinians live inside of Israel.
Yeah.
They basically live in an open-air prison where they aren't really allowed to vote.
Yeah, they're not allowed
in
to vote.
Israel.
Nope.
They're not really allowed to kind of leave.
Nope, they're not allowed to leave.
And basically, there is a terrorist organization called Hamas that's inside of the Palestinian territory. Well, it's not really theirs. Israel kind of owns it. But there's a small terrorist group called Hamas that's inside of this area.
You can say it's their territory.
And so,
it's been designated for them.
So basically, Hamas launched terrorist attacks on Israel. And so the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, they moved their troops because there's these settlements everywhere. So Israel has, over the past couple of years, basically has been telling their citizens, hey, you guys should go settle areas that are already being lived in by the Palestinians. So a lot of people in Israel have gone into the Palestinian areas, taken the buildings, taken the homes, taken the area, and they're settling it. And so the people in Hamas feel like they should basically fight back and violence and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
The people in Israel obviously have been retaliating.
Yeah.
They have been bombing one another. There's lots of civilian deaths and things like that. So what happened was Hamas launched this attack. Okay, so this doesn't have anything to do with the rando civilians in Israel and in Palestine that are being murdered because of this conflict. But Hamas launched an air, land, and sea attack at the same time on Israel. There has been thousands of injuries, a little over 1,000 deaths as of earlier today, I believe, as I heard.
I was 1,200.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And there's been like 4,500 injuries
Yeah.
on both sides. About 4,500 injuries, and there has been a extreme response from Israel as far as retaliating for the initial
They literally blew
bombardment
an
that they
apartment building.
received.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they've been bombing everything in Gaza. So, criticism to go around here.
Yeah.
I don't think the unnuanced takes against either side are true.
Yeah.
So I don't like the people that are saying, well, because they're doing the settlements, they had it coming. That's not right. You do not bomb civilians in Israel, or you shouldn't bomb Israel. Like
civilian
it's insane.
Civilian attacks, attacking regular normal people who are not
they're
fighting
not
you,
military. They're just
it's
people.
never okay. It's never okay. It's never justified. It's never like, oh, you had it coming. It just isn't.
And if you think it's okay, think about if it was you as a civilian. As a civilian, you are not the military. You're not on a military base.
Right.
You are not launching attacks yourself.
You're
to just
minding
be
your own
bombed.
business. Yeah.
Like, that's crazy talk.
No.
And just like it's the same thing that people that are basically saying, well, because Israel was attacked, they should be able to do whatever they want now. No, because they are also bombing civilians.
Right. And
so there's got to be some nuance to the discussion. You know what I mean?
Not only that, like, I think the thing that really frustrates me about the whole conversation is a lot of people have been saying for a long time, listen, you cannot put people in this situation where you don't give them any way to peaceably and peacefully resolve it.
Right.
And it's very similar to the conversation we keep having about the United States economy. Like, that's the part that's scary to me. Like, during 2020, there were a lot of riots, and people kept saying, well, I don't understand why people keep rioting. And what a lot of people kept saying is, listen, you have put a lot of young people in a position where they absolutely do not see like how they're going to make a future for themselves. Now, I want to say, a lot of the people rioting in the United States were just bored. They're not in an open air prison. Their kids are not being murdered. They're not getting shot at for peacefully protesting. Their houses are not being confiscated.
You did not have to go steal a 64-inch
TV. Right. You didn't need to go break into a Walmart and steal 2 PlayStations.
Now, sometimes, like Martin Luther King said, I think it was Martin Luther King that said the riot is the voice of the unheard.
Correct.
But
you
don't need to go steal no TV, bro.
Correct. No, all the Philly shoplifters, like, shame on all.
They're gonna
y'all
catch
making
you, bro.
Everything worse. Right, and I hope they do. I hope they throw you right in jail because you shouldn't be doing that, dumb junk. But that's not what. Nah. Listen, you breaking into people's stuff.
No, you're right.
That's kind of what's gonna happen. Like,
no, you're right.
Better.
Because we can't criticize Derek Chauvin for committing a crime against George Floyd and then tell the people committing crimes that they're okay. Like, no, crimes are crimes. You should not be killing people, and you should not be robbing stores.
And I'm fine with saying that some crimes are stupid. About Israel. Like, I'm correct. I'm fine with saying some crimes are stupid. But ultimately, I think the thing that continues to frustrate, you're right, we got way off topic.
Yeah.
The thing that continues to frustrate me about the conversation is I keep hearing these some of them are Jewish people, and then some of them are like, supporters of the state of Israel, and supporter of Jewish people, and they're saying, oh, well, you have to unequivocally support Israel. And I'm like, bro, that's like saying you should unequivocally support a drug addict. Like, no, you have to support them when they're right, and when they're wrong, you have to tell them they're wrong, and you have to explain why they're wrong.
Yeah, and support them through the solution to not be wrong. Because at the same time,
because you're actively...
We are participating.
Right. You're cheerleading the thing that is causing their destruction. Like, bro, if Israel had come in and said, listen, we're not going to build in your area. We're going to do everything we can to support you guys building your area. But if you attack us, we're going to jack you up. We're going to blow up every single person who decides that that's the direction they want to go. But if y'all want to be peaceful and y'all want to self-govern and y'all want to figure y'all stuff out, we'll help you figure your stuff out. If they had came at it with that kind of energy, like, I don't think it's possible.
Now, let me throw a little nuance in here, okay? I'm going to try to do it quickly.
Help me out.
Basically, it is a little bit more complicated than that because there are parts of the Israeli side as well as the Palestinian side that are like, no. There is no two-state solution. There is no peace. We want our land, and we want to basically fight you for it.
I definitely agree with that.
And so, like, when I think about Hamas, that's the same thing that made the war in Iraq so difficult. It's because you're not fighting a standing army. You're fighting terrorists. Terrorists are doing suicide bombings. They're doing, basically, kamikaze bombings. Like, they're doing crazy stuff like that where there is no, we're fighting them and they're fighting us. It is, we're walking through town looking for the enemy, and then boom, they bombed us.
Yeah, but
like so and then there's certain parts of the Palestinian force that's the Palestinian, like the Hamas people.
Right.
I'm trying to make sure to be clear. I'm not blaming the Palestinians. I'm blaming Hamas. There is parts of Hamas that there is no peace for them. There is no way for Israel to have now. I don't think there's been enough effort since Jimmy Carter was president to try to get that peace. But at some point, we really should just be like, okay, we got to get the leader of Hamas and the prime minister of Israel together, and we got to come up with a plan. At some point, you're going to have to do something.
Something Cornel West talks about a lot is like the connection between like a lot of the strife you see in the black community in the United States and a lot of the dysfunction you see in like the Palestinian-Israeli relations, right?
Yeah.
So there is an issue where like setting up Israel as a state over there, like it wasn't perfect when we did it initially, and we have never reconciled with the people that we hurt to set up Israel. It's not that we shouldn't have set Israel up, because I think at the time it was the best of bad options, right? But when you do something that's the best of bad options like that, like you have to deal with the fallout from all of the people you're now hurting in order to do this thing that you feel like is justified. If you feel like it's justified, which again, I genuinely, looking at the facts that I have in front of me, seems like that was the best option. A whole lot of people in the area were just not willing to let this happen at all. So we said, listen, we're not giving you a choice. It's going to happen now. Now what?
To me, the biggest parts of the problem is the fact that there's the settlements as well as the fact that these people can't vote.
It's not.
So it's because the thing is, right, you're never really going to have a two-state solution if you're taking, like, okay, let's simplify it. In your opinion, if you were president right now, what would be the options that you would throw out to solve this? Because to me, there's very few. One, you have a discussion with Israel and you work towards creating a unified Israel where all the Palestinians and all the Israelis get to vote. A lot of people would be like, no, we don't like that idea. We don't want to do that because if, the Palestinians ever become the majority, they would overvote. And then you'd have like a Hamas leader as the prime minister of Israel, which would be unthinkable. But then you talk about the two-state solution, but you have a lot of people in Israel that are like, no, there's no such thing as Palestine. That land belongs to us, and we are never going to relinquish it. So it's like, it is a and you guys have to understand, this is a biblical fight.
Right.
Okay?
For
so
years,
this
for
is
centuries,
and
millennia even.
So this isn't just, this new prime minister and this fight's been going on for decades.
A long time.
I just made a comment about Jimmy Carter, who was president in like the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, he was the last person to achieve somewhat peace in the Middle East until the president of Egypt was assassinated.
Correct.
For agreeing to that. But it did still create peace in the Middle East for a little while. I'm just keeping it real.
Okay. Now, as we close things out, okay? You asked me a question. I'm going to try and answer it.
Okay. Yeah.
Honestly, in my opinion, the best thing to do would probably be for us to cautiously divest ourselves of that area and say, listen, y'all figure it out. We're not going to touch it. If you come over here, we gonna jack you up. We got our area. This is where the line is. Y'all stay over there. Y'all figure it out.
Now, I'm going to throw a wrench in and I want you to respond to this. So you've got bigger problems in the area. For example, Iran. So the day that this happened, there was chants in the Iran government, their version of like the Senate or whatever, basically saying death to Israel and supporting that attack. And so similar to our efforts in Ukraine, the concern is if we allow Israel to just fight their own battles, one, Israel's our biggest...
No, wait. I don't mean U.S. tell Israel, y'all figure it out. No, what I mean is Israel says to Palestine, hey, listen, the area y'all in, that's y'all's. We not...
Oh, you're saying a two-state solution.
I'm saying
literally telling them to run their own area.
Not just run their own area. This is where we're cutting it off. We're not coming over there. Y'all got it. Don't come over here.
Like make them their own country?
Let them have it. Let them have the area they got.
Now, at that point, you're going to have other issues. Like, one, you have to take the settlements back. Send all of those Israelis that have now built their lives there over the past couple decades.
Here's the problem.
Back into Israel.
Here's the problem.
Out of Gaza. Gaza is a tiny, high, densely populated area.
Correct. There's like 2
million people on an area twice the size of D.C.
But I think the problem that I always have is you're saying, oh, well, now those Israelis who got into this place illegally are going to be displaced, and in my opinion, they already displaced somebody else.
No, they should be displaced back into Israel. But what I'm saying is, in the event that we did that,
if you put money there, you lost it because you shouldn't have put the money there. I know we told you to do it. That was our bad. We'll recompensate you on the Israeli
There you go.
side.
Okay. All right. I'm in.
We'll make it good with our people.
Because they're not going to do it if that's not part of the equation. That's what I'm saying.
No. You're saying the Israeli government should be responsible, because I think the problem always ends up, everybody feels like they're the biggest, baddest one in the room and nobody's going to mess with them until it happens, and then they want to be indignant about it after the fact. Every time we get in an armed conflict, it never goes the way we expect it to. We're never as prepared as we think we are. We never see it coming, and we're always overreacting in the wrong place at the wrong time to the wrong people. It just doesn't work. It didn't work for 9/11. It didn't work for Ukraine and Russia. It's not going to work this time. Responding over the top, blowing up everything, it doesn't work. It makes everything worse. So ultimately, if I were president, I would say, nah, Israel, listen, this is what you got to do. We going to rock with you, but you got to stop doing jacked up stuff so we can actually defend you. It's no different than if my wife was at a movie theater or a bar and she picked the biggest dude in the room and she want to go, slap him in the face and throw a drink on him and make a big ruckus. Like, I might die trying to defend your honor, or you can just not do that. Listen, bro, I love you. I don't want you to... What I'm saying is...
If my wife do that.
Correct. You going to be like, oh, I ain't tell you to do that dumb junk, but that's...
I'll just play a bit.
You ain't gonna do that for real.
No, my wife's scared of everything, bro. She would never.
Listen, my wife loves me too much to put me in a position where I would end up dying because of something she did like that. And in my opinion, Israel should be in the same position.
My wife loves herself too much to do that.
Well,
to pick the biggest dude in the bar, punch him in the face. I hope she loves herself.
Listen, because your wife has a real understanding of what violence means, and I think in the same vein, like
well, I guess the point of terrorism is to create the point terror. But it's like, what do you think was about to happen? Bro? No,
so.
But I don't know.
Hamas is doing the same thing that all of the white school shooters do in our country, and all and
Al Qaeda and everyone else.
They're not thinking about what happens after.
Because the only thing that matters is
it's their grievance. They're grievance brained. So they're like, no, you did something wrong to me, so I'm gonna take everything from you. I'm gonna do the worst things I can think because you deserve it. And that doesn't work. Yeah. And it never does.
So I'm gonna end it with this 2-second story about this war. So when I was in college at Virginia State, I had this professor named Dr. Young. Mm-hmm. Dr. Young was actually one of my favorite professors because he really just did not care about anything at all.
Those are the best professors.
Yeah. And he's African, okay? So I think he's from Nigeria. Uh-huh. And he fought in a war called the Biafran War when he was a child.
Listen, we got back to it.
Yeah. Okay. So Dr. Young was a literal child soldier. Wow. And I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah. And so it was so weird because you know how, like, when Dad talks about his time in the military, he'll kind of remember certain things. He'll say his little sayings and all that stuff. Yeah. Like, when I tell you, he snapped so hard back into that mode, and he started saluting, and then he had started speaking his native tongue and saying all the stuff that they would say. And he was like, come to my office, come to my office, come to my office. You know how they'd be yelling at you. So I go to his office, and he starts Googling Biafran War. This is because we were talking about that movie, the Idris Elba movie. Yeah. I think that movie is based on that war. So he starts talking about all the stuff that was happening. I was like, that reminds me of this movie I just watched the other day about all these child soldiers. Yeah. And I was like, the main character's name was Agu. And he was like, Agu, that's a name from Nigeria. That's a Nigerian name. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. Was he a child soldier? I was like, yeah. He's like, I was a child soldier. I was like, no.
That's a crazy statement,
by
the way.
And he said, I was like, I asked him, like, okay, so how did that happen? He said, well, basically, there was a civil war that took place. It was 3 factions in this country. Uh-huh. One of the factions fought the other 2, and then they lost, of course, because it was 2-on-1. And basically, they fought to the death. And the draft was, they basically went to every house.
And was like, you got sons?
No, they would shove a gun in your face, like an assault rifle. And if you didn't fall, you were in the army. That was it.
What?
That's how they got drafted. That's what he told me. He said they knock on his parents' door. His dad opened the door. They basically yanked him out the house. You're in the fight. And then him and his brothers, they basically would shove an assault rifle into your hands. And if you don't fall, that means you're strong enough to hold it. And they're like, okay, he's in. And he held it. And that's how he got into the war.
What did they do with the people who couldn't hold it?
No, you go back with your mom. You're a baby. You're too young. Yeah. Wow, so then he told me he got shot in the leg, and he showed us his injury on his leg. Jeez. Right? He had a bullet hole in his. It's not a hole anymore, but he had a bullet injury in his leg. Yeah. And then he showed us. He started crying. He showed us a picture of his commander who was killed in the war, and he literally started crying in his office.
I'm sure.
So I was like, oh, this guy is not lying.
No.
Like, it was awesome. And I'm a history buff, so like that type of, I've never heard of that, and so of course you know me. I start researching it, and then anyway,
your reaction to that story is very different from I don't think.
He survived the war, but like think about it, Elliot. This is a literal child soldier from a African Civil War from the 1970s,
and he somehow ended up
and he's a professor at Virginia State University in Petersburg. Like, get out of here! That is a crazy
life story. You should call that guy up.
Yeah, we should write a book about that or something.
You probably should.
It was an awesome story.
But it's interesting. At some point, Peter Dow also says he was a child soldier. I quibble with his definition, but I don't want to argue with the man's life experience.
Professor was definitely
no, because Peter Dow was like, I think he said he was 17. So like on the one hand, that is still technically a child soldier.
There were anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
That means more of a soldier than either one of us were. So let me not even do that.
That's what. At the end of the day, ultimately, that's his life experience. I'm sorry he had to go through that. And I'm sorry that anybody has to go through that. Like, it sucks. So, ultimately, I hope we get some level-headed leaders in our country to help maybe, navigate us out of some of this craziness. But I'm not holding my breath on that. So, we'll see what happens. But this has been the Pensive Brothers Podcast. I am Elliot.
This is Aaron.
And we are out.